Jen, and I wanted to start this video off by showing you how much I have left of this kit as far as paper goes, because I don't have a lot, and I think I've used a whole lot of full sheets as backgrounds, and so just wanted to show you that. So for full sheets of paper, I have this wood grain left over. Not leftover, I'm still working, but and this Felicity Jane double-sided cardstock. I have about half a sheet of this foiled paper from Pebbles that has the copper on it. I have about a quarter or a third of a sheet of these words. Just a little bit left of this cut apart sheet. I have about half of this pink paisley paper that was, it's half of a cut apart and half of a, like a purple color. Actually, it's a little more than half because I have this part of it left too. I have this much left of, this is from Simple Stories. And then I have this much left. So these are like centers I cut out. So I've used a lot of borders, I think. This is left over from a pink paisley paper. And then I have this paper from Maggie Holmes Gather, which I've used a bunch of. And then I have some strips that I've kept of some of the papers. This one too. And this little bit left of this crepe paper and this. So that's not a lot. And so what I'm going to do today is use my scraps to do this layout about, this is me and my husband before we got married. I think it was around the same time of year that it is now, or maybe it was even in the fall. Actually, I was up at Utah State in the fall. It's possible. I'm not exactly sure when they were taken, but I'm going to do kind of a reflective layout. Did they know that in 14 years they would be blah, blah, blah kind of thing. So I'm going to be using those, and because the only color in here is really my blue skirt, I'm kind of just going to go with whatever colors I feel like, and I think it will work out. So I still have a lot of embellishments, so you can see that here. And so I will be able to figure something out. It's not going to be hard, I don't think. So that's the plan, and I'm going to go ahead and get started on this one.
Okay, so I'm going to start with these two photos of me and my husband when we were dating, and I'm just going to use these little bits of pattern paper. I'm not using really any big chunks, and cutting up strips so that I can use them, and I'm using some branding strips as well that I cut off other papers, because whenever I'm working with a kit, I kind of save all the little bits because I think they're fun to kind of work in. And I'm just layering them up below the photo. I thought maybe I would do a whole bunch of just strips under the photo, but now I remembered that I had that text print pattern paper, and so I'm going to use one of my go-to designs, which is to put a strip of paper on one of the sides and anchor the photos to it. So now I'm arranging these patterns in a way that I like, and I'm going to make that text a little bit smaller, and I'm thinking about placing the other part of it on the other side, because sometimes I like to block it in and sometimes I like to leave it open. But I'm going to go ahead and adhere the text print and then adhere down those strips in the order that you see them now. I really like how soft the colors ended up looking together. I think it's just enough color, but it's not overwhelming and it doesn't clash with the photos. Now the photos, as I mentioned before, don't have a ton of color in them, just my blue skirt. And I think it ends up working even though it doesn't match exactly. And I think that you can do that with a lot of photos. Everything doesn't have to exactly match. If it doesn't clash, then it's okay, usually. So I'm just laying those down, and I'm going to play with my photo placement here, trying to decide still if I want that other strip, but I decide that I don't. It seems like it's a little too much. If I had one photo, I might have done that. And right now I pulled out that bird, and I'm thinking, because I have that bird paper, which I absolutely love, I know I've used it on a few other layouts, and this layout actually ends up looking very similar to some of the other ones that I've made with this kit, which is fine with me. But I'm thinking I want the title to have the word lovebirds in it. And so I'm playing around with some of the products that I have left to see how I can create that title. And I liked the idea of doing La La Lovebirds. And so that word love is from the Cute Girl collection die cuts, but I end up deciding not to go quite so pink. I go more peachy. And so I decided to use the Studio Calico chipboard letter stickers that I've been using for the words instead. But I am going to use those kind of mirror looking pink paisley. They're from the C'est La Vie collection. Word la la, which was really meant to go with the ooh. So it said ooh la la. But I don't know if you've seen them before, but a few years ago there were cards and things that said la la love you, and I really always loved that sentiment with the la la in front of it, and so I'm applying it here to the lovebirds. So now I'm looking at my bird paper, trying to decide which ones I want to use. I want to use at least two because there's me and my husband, and he was, I don't think we were quite engaged even at this time. I don't have a date for the pictures exactly, so but I'm just hand cutting out these birds, and what I plan to do for this layout is kind of a reflective. I never realized how life would be like then. When we were dating then, I didn't realize, how our lives would turn out. And so I'm going to journal about a few of those different things a little bit later. So it's reflective. So it doesn't matter to me if I have the exact date. I just am going to put the year. So here I have two birds, and I don't love the way they look right next to each other. Kind of my idea was to have them right next to each other, looking at each other, but I didn't like the way that ended up looking. So I'm going to cut out another bird, or I'm going to cut one out. I think I don't cut it completely out. Anyway, I decide to just put the birds in different spots on the layout, and then that ends up working better for me. So I'm going to use one of the Feed My Craft flares that I have included in the kit, and also some of the tassels. And I really like the way the tassels end up looking. I'm using one of the arrows as well, which is from Pink Paisley. And these two flowers I didn't include originally in the kit, but I went to a crop at Jana Eubank's house, and she gave me these little flowers, and they just worked perfectly with the kit, so I threw them in with it, and I think they're going to work nicely here. Thought about using the raindrop washi tape, but I felt like it was a little gloomy for this kind of a subject. I don't think it always has to match the theme, but in this case it just seemed wrong. So I'm looking at the rub-ons, which are Valentine's themed, which works perfectly for a layout called La La Lovebirds, and I'm just going to cut out a few that I might end up using. The one I just put there says me plus you equals forever with an arrow, which I thought would be nice to include another arrow if I'm going to use that little kind of glittery toothpick arrow. So now I'm playing with how I want to do the tassels, and I want them to hang like two little tassels hanging down at different levels. And so I'm putting some crochet twine, just some white crochet twine, through the little loops. And at first I put them both on the same loop, but what I decided was better was if I tied one end of the string to one loop and then tied the other end of the string to the other loop, so it's like in a line, and then when I fold them together, it's got the loop at the top. I don't know if that makes sense, but so that's what I'm doing with both of my little tassels here. And I'm going to put one in the top cluster and one in the bottom. So this is going to have kind of a diagonal design. It's the embellishment will be in the top left and the bottom right. So before I go any further, I want to add a little bit of detail here. So I'm going to just use some white thread and stitch down each line of those little strips of paper that I adhered to the side. And I'm just, like I said, using white thread. I'm going to pull the threads through to the back and then just tape them down with some washi tape. And I just keep a washi tape on my desk or two that is one of the ones I don't use very often, or it's not my favorite or anything like that. And so I just use that mostly for taping down threads. And so I don't want to use any of the raindrop washi because even though I might not use it super often, it's one of my favorites. It's just really pretty, and the watercolor look of it is just gorgeous. So don't want to use that up even though it's in the kit. So now I'm going to play around with the arrangement of the photos, and I want to overlap them just a little bit. And I'm just putting a little bit of adhesive on the back of them, and kind of what I do is I hold them up, and then if I'm going to place two overlapping, I hold them up and then I put them down together. And now I'm going to do my title. And I thought what I wanted to do was have the word la la rest on the top or on the left photo and the word lovebirds rest on the bottom photo. I moved that bottom photo out a little bit so that it had the S didn't fall off the edge. But I decided that I wanted it kind of all on one level, so I pulled out my ruler and I'm just going to put it across. So the word la la rests a little bit more on the photos than the words lovebirds, and I think it works out nicely. So these are adhesive backed chipboard stickers, so I'm just taking the sticky back off of them and placing them down using my ruler so that it's nice and straight. So even though my photos are angled, the title is still straight. And you can see that the S doesn't fall off the edge. It just lines up right with the edge of the photo, which is perfect. So now I'm going to work on tucking all my little bits in. And the way that I like to make my clusters is so that everything's slightly overlapping or slightly touching, because that makes things feel like they belong together. So you can see that I kind of tucked the bird up underneath the words la la, and I'm going to tuck it even more here in just a second. I'm going to cut off the little branch that's coming out because it's looking a little strange, but I did tuck it up under the words la la, and I'm going to place this little flower so that the branch of the bird overlaps it slightly, and then I'm going to tuck these little the little tassels underneath, and I'm using just some micro glue dots, and you can see I'm making it so that one hangs a little lower than the other. And then I will add a few more things in there after I work on my bottom cluster. So that little Love You die cut is from the Cute Girl collection, and it kind of has that corally pink in it, which I thought was nice. And so I'm just kind of figuring out how I want to arrange the bird, and I decide to place it right there and have the flower kind of go around the curve of where the bird's neck turns, and the Love You will rest underneath that. And so I know I'm going to be off camera for this part, and I apologize, but there's a little hole in the Love You tag. It's really a tag. So what I'm going to do is thread my tassels through it, and you can see it there. And I'm just taping it on the back. I'm going to struggle with this a little bit because I didn't tie them tight enough and it comes undone. And so I'm going to have to redo my thread a couple of times. And so that's what I'm struggling with right now. Trying to tie it, but the thread's too short now because I cut it. So I'm going to have to rethread it, and it's just going to be a little bit of a pain. But you can see I'm just threading the tassel through that hole, which I thought was kind of fun. You can't really tell in the end because things get overlapped, but you know, I liked it. I am going to use that flare down in that cluster too, but I haven't decided exactly where I want to put it. I decided to fill, like, for a little bit of filler, just like you would in a flower arrangement, you add in little bits of filler in with the larger flowers. I'm going to do that here as well with some little leaf and branch pieces that are from that same bird paper. And I'm still fiddling with that string. It just gave me a little bit of a hard time. But here I'm adding in some leaves, and I'm going to do it at the top as well. Just filling in some of the awkward spaces, and I think that's a really good way to do it, is if you're using flowers at least, to just fill in with some leaves. So I think it just adds a nice touch to it as well. It makes the birds and the flowers really feel like they belong together because they have similar elements. So I got some placed on the bottom. I got some placed on the top. I'm thinking I need one more on the top, a little bit to the left of the flower. It's seeming right heavy, and so I add this little sprig up here at the top, and I like the pop of the greeny yellow too. I think it's really nice. And so now I'm trying to decide if I want to use more than one of those flare badges, but I decide not to, and I kind of tucked it in. And so now I'm putting back together this little arrow. It kind of fell apart. The adhesive wasn't super strong, and so I just added a little extra adhesive, and I'm going to place it so that it's kind of pointing to the bird and the Love You, that little cluster at the bottom. And I'm making it so that the stick kind of is lined up with the bottom edge of the photos. I'm also going to use some of these peach colored tiny word stickers. They are from Studio Calico, and they're pretty girly, like little girl. But there were enough phrases for me to pick out for this layout. It says, love you more, brown-eyed girl, which is what my husband's song for me is, adorable, and at the top I put the cutest, little love, and you are my sunshine. So I thought those worked well enough, and I'm just trying to vary where those little stickers end, so you can see that the edges of the stickers aren't all lined up. They kind of bounce back and forth, and I think that just gives visually it's more interesting. I'm going to go ahead and rub on that me plus you equals forever, and then there's one that says kiss kiss, and I'm kind of tucking it underneath the bird and where the A dips down in the word la la. And I put one that says love under love you, so it says love you love. And I'm going to get one more that says XOXO and place it in the space right above the little word stickers. And I kind of made it so that the last O goes underneath the photo, and that just makes it feel like it belongs in the cluster. Again, overlapping and tucking things like that really helps. I added some enamel dots, kind of the yellowy color, and then I went ahead to my typewriter and typed up some journaling, and it's what I mentioned to you before that I was going to talk about. I never realized how hard life would be. I never realized how grateful I would be for the way you make me laugh. I never realized my love for you could grow this much. I never realized how much I would love our little family. I never realized how amazing life would be. And so it's kind of just like a sentimental look back at this moment in time. I didn't realize what our life would be like. And then, so I just cut them into strips, and now I'm going to use my Scotch Quick Dry adhesive to glue those down. And I'm tucking the first one so that it goes in the space of where the arrow dips down. And again, tucking things in like that really makes it feel like it belongs. So, and then the strips will overlap a little bit with that little love you die cut as well. And I kind of spaced them so that each one was its own phrase. Each sentence was its own phrase because they all start with the same. It's a repetitive phrase, I never realized, for each sentence. And I wanted to emphasize that. So putting a space between each one of the phrases helps with that, I think. I mean, when you read it, it's obvious, but I think it's just a nice touch. So the bottom, it's feeling bottom heavy now. And so I need something at the top. And so I'm looking at my sticker sheet, which is from the Maggie Holmes Gather collection. And I thought that it would be nice to have another floral cluster right there, but I didn't find anything that would really work. And so I looked to the chipboard, and ta-da, you'll see in a second, I am finally going to use that little banner. And it works perfectly here because the flowers have that cream color in them. So it brings in the cream, and it fills in that space just perfectly. And I finally used it. So yay for me. So now I went to my Allie Edwards Then and Now Story Kit stamps. And I love using the stamps that say, there's one that says then and one that says now. And I like using it for when I have photos from a certain time and journaling from another time. And I am sorry that it's a little cut off right there, but I stamped using some Fresh Peach ink from Hero Arts. And I stamped then and wrote the date of the photos, 2002, and then now 2017. So I just wrote the years, and that was enough for me. And then I'm going to use that same ink up at the top using the Ellie Studio stamp set I had included in the kit and stamped Remember and Favorite. And then I'm also using just the edge of this one stamp that says Love You, and there's a heart in front of it. I'm just inking up the heart and stamping it all around with that same ink. And it's just kind of a nice way to scatter a bunch of that color around, just that kind of bright pop. And then I am going to finish off with a little bit of Heidi Swapp Gold Color Shine. And then that will finish up this layout. As I mentioned before, it's very similar to looking to some of the other layouts I've created in this series. And I will, when I'm done with it, post a whole bunch, or I'll post all the layouts together on my blog so you can get a look at the variety in the layouts. But thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave me a comment. I'll link to all of the available products in the video description. I also wanted to let you know that I am teaching a class at the first ever Scrap Gals Retreat here in Salt Lake City, Utah. And it is April 28th through 30th. And it's going to be awesome, an awesome time. Tracy Claiborne and Tiffany Louder, the hosts of the Scrap Gals, will be teaching, and they are going to it's going to be just super fun. They're going to have merchandise there, and we're going to have a super awesome time. So if you are interested in that, I will leave a link in the video description where you can find out more about it, and registration for that goes live on the 25th of January. So I hope that you'll check that out, and I will be back soon with more videos. Thanks for watching.